All right, good morning, everyone. It's good to see all of you. Welcome to Coffee with Director. I'm sure you all have plenty of questions in the midst of COVID, and you'd like to know what the school intends to do for next year is a lot of the questions that we've gotten. And so we're going to give you an update to the best of our knowledge. As you know, there's a lot of things are in flux right now. So what I tell you today may become obsolete tomorrow, right? Who knows? But right now, according to the information that we have, we're going to go ahead and share these slides with you. So, all right. All right, there we go. So first of all, again, welcome. And as many of you know, if you're a REACH parent already, we'll be ending our like 10.5 weeks of distance learning. And so on March 13th, I believe it was, the school, we were all forced to close, as you all know. And literally we gave the teachers 3 days. And on Wednesday, the 18th of March, our teachers were pushing out either distance learning or enrichment packets, but grades 3 through 6 were definitely on Zoom, providing lessons literally 3 days in. Our second graders did a combination of, again, enrichment packets in the very beginning, and then moved on. Some of them are TK through second, actually. Some of them are now on Zoom and Seesaw and various platforms. And majority of the work now is being pushed out online. The school provided well over maybe 200 devices that went home with families. And for families that don't have access to internet, we've been able to provide hotspots. And so we've continued to do all that we can as a school to promote learning to the best of our ability in the midst of this pandemic and school closure. We were able to continue with our tutoring online. So our interventionists, we have, I believe, 6 or so, have been able to provide tutoring daily to the students that were on their caseload. And then since COVID, we increased their caseloads. And so if teachers are teaching Zoom in the morning, then a lot of our students that are struggling academically are still receiving additional tutoring after school or in the afternoon, which is pretty phenomenal. Our sped ed services, when we opened our doors via distance learning, COVID, right? Stay at home. And you might hear a dog bark too, just FYI. So when we opened our doors via distance learning, our sped ed department was running alongside of us. And so effective immediately, they were providing special ed services. They continued with all of their closeout IEPs for the remainder of the year. Students have received all services in alignment with their IEPs. And so even down to speech. And so our students, and to a large degree, haven't missed a beat. I mean, we would never say that distance learning in the current platform at all replaces the robust academic environment that we have here at REACH when kids are on site. But in comparison to surrounding districts, we feel very confident that our teachers have gone above and beyond. All right, there we go. All right, so we looked at a survey. So we'll be sending a survey to all parents, and please look for that either via email or Dojo. And we really need families to respond to the survey. The survey is intended to let us know what your plans are for next year or what your wishes are for next year. Let's put it that way, and I'll go more into detail as it relates to what this might look like for us, again, with the caveat that this could change. But there will be options. Okay. And if you don't mind, if you can mute yourself, and then if you have questions, I have plenty of time at the end for questions, so please stop down those questions, and we're getting background noise as well. So if you don't mind muting yourselves, and if you're a co-host, maybe you can mute noise and then mute it if you're able to. So again, awesome. And am I muted as well? No. Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. All right. So that survey will be sent home, and we need your responses. At the best of what we can think of in terms of next year is we will be definitely offering distance learning full-time for anyone that needs it. So if we have a parent that is able to work from home and still feels very uncomfortable sending their child to school, you can keep that child home. We will still provide push-out instruction similar to what we're doing now. Well, it won't be over Zoom. The teachers will probably videotape, record their lessons and push them out that way, but there will be a distance learning component regardless of what it looks like in terms of like site-based instruction, students coming on campus and the like. And we also need to know via that survey how many parents are needing, who, like essential workers, for instance, are needing childcare. We won't have a lot of space in our after-school program, but we do want to take that into consideration. We know that there are parents that have to work and that need care Monday through Friday. But as a hybrid, we're relying on hopefully the majority of our parents being able to be flexible with us in terms of what we're able to roll out for next year. I'll go ahead and move on to the CDC guidelines, and these are just a few. And so the recommendation, these are not a law, right? But these are recommendations that any person over the age of 2 wears a mask. And so what that would look like at the beginning of the year is that students would have masks on. Everyone on campus would have masks. All of our staff will have their temperatures checked daily. Teachers will do a wellness check in the classroom. And we'll do everything that we can to minimize or stop the spread, especially on our campus. There will be no sharing. This is according to the guidelines. So think about what that's going to look like in the classrooms or like during recess time, right? If there is a recess, and we'll talk about that, or PE, but no sharing of supplies, of belongings, of cubbies, of games, and things like that. So we're really going to have to think about when students are on campus, what does and will that look like? Desk, the recommendation should be 6 feet apart, and that there's one-way routines for transitioning. There's no mixing of groups. The recommendation is obviously that there's no field trips or assemblies or large gatherings whatsoever. The CDC is recommending staggered arrival times and departure times to limit our exposures to crowds. Of course, our dismissal is drive up, so we wouldn't have a problem either way, but it will talk to you about what the possibilities might be in terms of the students being on campus. Another, obviously, item that the school is going to have to take into consideration is cleaning and disinfecting throughout the day. So we're already making provisions to hire more staff to clean. Teachers will be cleaning, students will be cleaning after themselves, but literally like having that disinfecting and cleaning routine that's continuous throughout the day in a more robust way than we have in the past. And so if you've been on our campus, we have Miss Carmen who cleans throughout the day, keeps our campus immaculate. Then we have a cleaning crew that comes in every night, Monday through Friday, and cleans as well. But we try to keep our campus as clean as possible. This will be in addition to that. And so we're looking at having more staff on hand to disinfect and clean daily. With regards to schedule, so some of the questions were, I'm going to grab my notes too, like what can we expect the upcoming year? What would the hours look like, say, for kindergarten? If we're staggering classes, will siblings be on the same schedule? And so, of course, that's a yes. We'll make sure siblings are together. And how realistic to start August 25th? And some of the same questions. So let's get started. Hopefully you have your coffee this morning, by the way. Mr. Finley and I are in our virtual coffee rooms, just So let me see. Let me go to some of my answers that I jotted down. So next year, our first thought, obviously, so everything perfect in a perfect world, we're 100% back on campus, life as usual. Obviously, that would probably require a vaccination, immunization that happens like now. And for the virus to completely disappear, it's no longer a threat. And we all know that that doesn't look like the case. So some of the ideas that we're kicking around, and we've looked at other districts to see what they're doing as well, would be like a hybrid of sorts. So distance learning will definitely take place for the rest of the year, all of school year. Again, anywhere from a child being 100% on distance learning to a hybrid, where that would be some distance learning and then some class time. And so we will give parents the option based on need of where their child can fall, and that's where that survey comes in handy. And what we're proposing right now, we're going to propose to our board, which would be, so plan A, everything goes back 100% as normal. Plan B would be like an A-B schedule of sorts, where students are on campus, say Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday, just a thought, right? Or Tuesday, Thursday, and every other Friday. And the hours would be proposed hours, again, just caveat, any of this can change, probably 7:45 until about 2:30, because obviously teachers are going to need a lot more prep time to keep up with the distance learning piece of things as well. And so school would end, I would say 2 or 2:30, in enough time for teachers to be able to handle both caseloads. Those students, the idea behind an A and B schedule would be half of the students are on campus at one time. And so we would be able to adhere to those CDC guidelines and be able to socially distance our students. We're looking at obviously keeping siblings together, and we definitely have every intention of starting August 25th, and we don't see any issues with that currently. Again, everything's subject to change, but that's where we are as of today. So some of the other questions, as you can see, that have been posted with regards to health and safety. So let me speak to a few. Our admin team, myself and my admin team, we're working on these guidelines and what this will look like for REACH. We're focusing on closing out this week. So our distance learning ends on Friday. And so starting next week, we will dive deeper into some of these concepts and ideas. And again, looking at best practices and what other schools are doing, what other districts are doing. But there will be physical distancing throughout the day, keeping our students 6 feet apart. And again, that goes to that A-B schedule, less students on campus, spreading the desks out 6 feet apart, making sure transitions are going in one way. Absolutely no congregating in large areas and venues. And so lunch would be taken in the classroom, for instance. There would be some kind of a PE rotation that would include maybe one class at a time and spreading out. It wouldn't be the full time that we have currently, which is about 30 minutes a day. There would be a modification of sorts. All those things we're still working out. But again, if we're doing PE, obviously there's no physical touching, there's no playing of games, there's everybody facing forward, 6 feet apart, eyes facing the PE coach, kind of like old school, or we're doing a few jumping jacks and touching our toes just to get the kids moving, sort of a thing, just FYI. As for kinder, well, obviously we would still have to work out what socializing and play looks like for them when they are on campus. As far as like free play and recess, we're really going to have to figure that out, but there will definitely be break times. And again, I will pause at the end for questions if you don't mind holding on to those. We only have a few slides, but I don't know if there was a question on the floor. Awesome, thank you. So because there's no sharing of toys and all the way down to the tricycles, like we're having to rethink what this is going to look like on campus. And so Not fun stuff. It's temporary, it's not forever, and we're going to do everything that we can to educate your children and to keep everyone safe. Things like science camp next year, it's actually next June, so we really can't tell. We don't know what the future may hold with regards to COVID-19. Currently, we still have science camp on the books for June. We'll know definitely by next February, March, what that may look like, whether or not we're going to take the kids to science camp. What we may do is fundraise for it and collect money just in case. And if we cancel, we'll do like we did this year and reimburse parents. That would be the same for any field trips. We're going to probably assume there will be none next year for obvious reasons. With regards to academics, and so you can see the various questions. Will there be any additional learning over the summer? Will students be able to keep their Chromebooks? What will that look like for the following year? And then again, what are our plans if we end up with a stay put next year and have to teach online? So I'll answer some of those questions now. So teachers will provide suggestions for summer work, definitely. There's always that summer slide. But of course, now in the midst of COVID, with the abbreviated learning that students have gotten, albeit at Reach, it's been really robust. I think from a distance learning perspective, I don't know of any other schools. I'm sure there's some, but the majority of the schools that I've looked into and poked around at, I don't know, very few, if any. I'll say very few were actually holding Zoom classes every day. And I know that even our third grade, our kids were in Zoom 3 hours a day. One second, I just had my daughter come home and she's having fun with the doggy. Hold on. Thank you for your patience. I wanted to let her know we were Zooming right now. So teachers will provide those suggestions, but the Chromebooks must be returned as we do summer inventory, as you can imagine, every year, out of due diligence and following the Wilson Act and things like that. We have to make sure we have devices and items or books for our kids. And so we do a complete count of all of our inventory. So all the Chromebooks will have to be returned. However, we will be pushing out some ideas for additional work over the summer. There may even be some enrichment packets coming home, so look out for that as well. If there's a shelter in place, then I feel like we're more ready to do that than we were the first time. So we will be prepared. We will continue to be prepared, beefing up our online presence, making it easier for parents to facilitate and access information. We'll do everything that we can to make sure if we do end up with a stay-at-home order, that we're ready to continue with Zoom. By then, you should expect probably at least 1st through 6th grade with daily Zoom lessons if we were to move in that direction. And so we're poised and ready to go where that's concerned. We did purchase enough Chromebooks for a 1-to-1 for 2nd graders. And so the first thing we'll do is put a Chromebook in all of their little amazing hands when they come on campus next year, and teach them to use them to the extent possible, with the idea that we could possibly be moving back to a distance learning platform, 100% participation. We are also looking to do the same thing at some point for 1st grade. We do have a lot of budget considerations and constraints for next year, but that's another coffee with the director. But we are still looking at ways to get Chromebooks for a 1-to-1 for 1st grade as well. And so for those of you that are not aware, we do already have a 1-to-1 correspondence for Chromebooks and students from grades 3rd grade all the way through 6th. And so when we moved to distance learning, there were aspects of it that were sort of like second nature, and that our students in those grade levels from 3 to 6 were already pushing out lessons online. So they were used to Zoom online and the various activities that they're now doing. And so, I'm sorry, not Zoom, Google Classroom and things like that, which made this transition a lot easier for us. And so we want to prep our first and second graders and have them in that same, along that same vein, being able to learn in either environment and to maximize their learning to the extent possible. So for special ed, there was it's funny, we had like a special ed question. Literally, let's see. Well, it's not letting me. There we go. Just one comment that just said special education, which is great because that's all we needed. So with regards to special education, they will continue to be a full continuum of services. We will be adhering to IEPs and providing minutes via Zoom in the same way that we're doing now. With the AB schedule, there will be a hybrid of sorts. And so some of those services, or probably maybe all, if they can facilitate that, will be provided when that student's on campus. And if that doesn't work out and it's interfering, obviously for obvious reasons, with classroom instruction, then when the student is at home, distance learning, part of that would be their special ed minutes. And so we don't anticipate and will not anticipate, shall not anticipate any disruption with regards to special education services, but great question. All right, general comment. So Miss Marilyn put this up here. I'm not one to brag, but I have to say our teachers are amazing. We've been completely just blown away by their resiliency and their willingness to go above and beyond in every classroom. Mr. Finley and I, if you haven't met Mr. Finley, he's next to me. I think you can see him right now. He's our new assistant principal. I have two. So Miss Navarro is still here. I don't see her yet on the Zoom, but I think she's here. And so she's vice principal over attendance and discipline. And Mr. Finley is vice principal over curriculum and instruction. So he and I spent the last week or so observing Zoom lessons. Well, he does that anyway, but I jumped in for formal observations and was absolutely blown away with a 100% satisfaction rate on our end with just how well our teachers are doing on Zoom. It has been absolutely amazing. So there's a comment, if you care to read it, with regards to the fourth grade. It was a shout out and how well our teachers have done in all grade levels. And this was a shout out for fourth grade. And just their resiliency and just their passion for teaching. And hopefully as parents, you've been able to get a glimpse of, what we're able to see every day. Sometimes it's not, easy to see the magic that happens at Reach, but, and I know that the learning and instruction isn't perfect, but you can see the way we engage and our teachers are go over and above and beyond to make sure students their needs are met. Miss Sanchez, for instance, for sixth grade, she felt very badly that the students were going to miss science camp. So they've had science camp, really cool. In the evenings, she's given up her time from like 7 to 8 o'clock. Or was it 8 to 9? I think 7 to 8 o'clock. And they've done really fun stuff. Last week, students made bow and arrows. I sat in on like a campfire, like camping thing of sorts. Kids were under blankets with flashlights as Miss Sanchez and Mr. Perez told stories. It was absolutely amazing. And not only that, Miss Sanchez and a lot of the other teachers provide hours after. So they've taught Zoom in the morning. They jump back on in the afternoon to answer questions, provide tutoring, provide feedback. It's just been absolutely, absolutely amazing. These are ways that you can stay connected. My next slide is, we're going to open up to questions, but this is how you can stay connected. Please check the weekly updates. Miss Marilyn has done an amazing job of providing weekly updates to parents. And all of the previous updates are archived. And so if you haven't read them, you can click on the link today. And if you're not getting this link, you can contact the office. We'll make sure you're connected or we get you dialed into the hub. Usually teachers post this on Dojo as well. But this is a really good place for you to stay up to date on what's going on campus. Any new CDC guidelines or recommendations, we're usually posting here as well. What we like about it, again, is that archive feature. And so you can go all the way back to our first newsletter since COVID and you would be able to catch up on, excuse me, any news that you may have missed. CCSA, which is the California Charter School Association, it's an association of which we've been a part of since before we started REACH. It was part of when we were in our development phase, we were a part of CCSA. It's an amazing organization for charter schools, and there's a lot of information online to support parents during this time. If you're having, they're providing updates and various references and resources online as well. The CDC and CDE is also another good spot you can go to for any types of COVID updates, but we try to keep you up to date with regards to REACH and where we are on a daily basis. So I'm going to go ahead, and this should be questions, and we love this. I believe this is when we had, I love this picture, by the way. We've used it a lot, FYI. Love it. So I believe this was our, Marilyn could correct me, but I believe it was our jogathon. And
yeah, that's correct, Dr. Rentie.
Yeah, so if you have a question, do me a favor. This is how we're going to do it. Just go ahead, and I could have you raise your hand, Mr. Finley. Is that easier? Or should I just have you just unmute yourself and just go ahead and ask the question? Mr. Finley, which way should we do this?
You should unmute.
Unmute. Okay. So if you have a question, there's 60 of us. So welcome. It's if you have a question, so you ask the question and then mute yourself right back. So if you have one, go ahead. What's your question?
I just want to ask, first of all, good morning, and thank you for all the hard work. Yes, I agree with you. It's been awesome, the distant learning. And I just want to ask, when they go back to school, is it going to be rotating of students that are going to be able to go on campus optional, or is it going to be by you guys telling us who's going to be able to attend campus and who's not?
Good question. And you can mute yourself again. There's like background noise, and then I'll let you, there's a follow-up, okay? So just to answer your question, there will be, so via the survey, and we want to get 100% of you to respond to that so we can know where to place you and your child. So if you were to say, you know what, I want to keep my child home 100% of the time, I'm not feeling very comfortable with this COVID thing, just teach me, I'd like to do distance learning. So then we'll put you in one category. If you say, I'm okay with the hybrid, with the 2 to 3 days a week, then we will place your child based on like an A-B schedule, either an A or a B. So they're coming Tuesday, Thursday, every other Friday, or vice versa. And then we will assign them, but we will only assign based on your feedback to us. So what we're hoping is that we get as many of you to respond to that survey as possible so that we don't have to track you down, but we intend to get every person's voice so that we know exactly how to meet that need. So based on the number of kids that are at home and the number of kids that are going to attend the hybrid classroom, we will then create the classes themselves. But we have the teachers and the capacity to obviously to pull this off. And so what we're looking at is just half the amount of students in the class at one time. I'm sure that the kids want to see their friends. And so, if you're feeling comfortable with that, that is definitely an option, but the option will be the parents option, not the schools. But the schedule itself, like if you say, oh, I'd rather a Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, like that's going to be hard for us to navigate with over 600 kids. You're probably going to be given a day, if that, unless you have an extenuating circumstance and you're saying, like, I am, an essential worker and I work, these 2 days, and the only day that this works for me is X, then obviously we'll try to meet those needs. But otherwise, we're asking parents to trust us and to be flexible with us as we're trying to build the plane as we're flying it as well. Did that answer your question? Did you have a follow-up to that?
Yes, thank you. And that's it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Next person, anyone else with a question?
I know you said don't raise our hand, but I'm just old school.
No, you don't have to. You're good. No.
Well, unfortunately, of course, the COVID-19 has a lot of, setbacks. My daughter's in the 6th grade, so it's her last year. She's graduating. Yes, but it's kind of sad because, of course, you guys have festivities for the 6th graders. and graduation, how would that work for her? I mean, I know you guys can't have, nothing fun, I understand, but as far as graduation, how is that going to work for her?
So let me just contextualize this. Thank you. You can mute yourself and then you can unmute. I'll let you have a follow-up. Okay? So let me just contextualize this for everybody. I mean, listen, 6th grade year, we really turn it up at Reach. We have the best time in the spring with our 6th graders. So it breaks all of our hearts that came to an abrupt end, as so many of the fun activities, and even like with our cool down parties with the 3rd through 6th grade, like they're amazing times that the kids will not, be able to participate in. So to answer your question with regards to 6th grade, we plan to still have a drive-through celebration where we have a promotion exercise. So the information with regards to that, look out for it. If you do not get notification on that, reach out to the teacher, I would say by Wednesday, but I'm pretty sure parents will be notified today, if not tomorrow, with regards to the date and time. I can tell you, spoiler alert, I know that for sure it's the 12th, which is that Friday, is promotion exercises for 6th graders. Kindergarten is on the 11th promotion, and there is a specific time for each grade level or each classroom to drive up. And so that will be shared with our parents as well. And so even though that's there's not a lot going on, we will at least be able to say our last goodbyes to our 6th graders in the way that we know how. And so, Mr. Finley, is there anything to add to that?
No, I think you nailed everything. We will be streaming live as well, and we'll ask parents to opt in whether or not they want to be streamed with regards to going live on Facebook. This is to help like other parents and other family relatives who aren't able to come to the graduation to be able to see, because we are only going to allow one vehicle per household to come through the drive-through. So you should have approximately 3 to 4 minutes-ish with your students. We're going to have teachers rallying and cheering students socially distanced in the parking lot. So from the moment you enter our campus, you're going to feel the celebration of the graduation. We're going to ask students to come out of the car individually, probably with one parent, go up onto the stage, receive some form of recognition, then they will come down the stage and go back into their vehicles. So we are trying to make it as close as possible to an actual graduation, even though we have the circumstances that we're dealing with right now.
Thank you for that. So to piggyback off of what Mr. Finley said, so again, there will be a live stream. So we're looking at YouTube and Facebook Live. And the intent behind that is you can still have, your socially distancing, social distance little party going on at home, or family members can watch live and don't feel like they've missed out on that moment for the students. And so it will be live, and you can, when you're in the line, you can call your family members at home and say, hey, we're getting ready to drive up, so watch us now, kind of a thing, and at least have that in the memory for those kiddos. Now we're planning on putting together a video for them as well, and do something special as they are, that COVID promoting class. So, we'll be putting our heads together for more fun and some Zoom parties for them as well. And so that's coming up, and we'll keep the parents posted. LaShawn, did you have any other questions with regards to that? I saw your thumb up. Are you good?
Well, no, I just want to thank you guys. She's been with you guys since 4th grade, Anna. 4th grade. She's actually in Zoom right now with Mr. Perez and Ms. Sanchez. And I would appreciate it. She's it's sad that she's leaving, but she is growing, so she's moving on to other things. So I want to thank you guys having her there. She learned a lot. New things, how to stay in uniform, so no regular clothes. So she learned a lot of new things. So I want to thank you guys for, teaching her new things and getting out to the world to move on up. I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you much. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. We're going to miss our 6th graders for sure. It's really bittersweet, especially not having that whole spring to say goodbye, right? So it makes me tear up. Anyone else? Questions? Just jump on in. Unmute yourself.
Mine's not really.
Oh, go. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Uh-huh.
Mine's not really a question. It's just a request, please, if you can keep the incoming students that haven't been there last year in mind on any summer reading. That would be great, or summer learning.
Good point. Okay, so incoming summer. I'll see what we can do with Rachel to keep you all plugged in as well. Thank you, question. Any other, anything else? Any other questions?
Hi, Dr. Rentie. I have 2 questions. One, regarding the AB schedule, is it possible for you guys in your questionnaire to allow us to be linked or coordinated with other families who we work with? Like, for example, there's 3 or 4 families at Reach that we all, are friends and we work together, help each other out with childcare. So can we all be like coordinated to be on the same schedule? And then secondly, for the very young children, I'm going to have a 1st grader next year, and I'm concerned about mask wear, them touching their face even more, wearing a mask, regarding, putting it on and off, not even using it properly. And if they're 6 feet apart and you're doing all the other precautions, what are your guys' views on the masks?
Thank you for your question. And we will take into consideration like carpooling and those types of accommodations, obviously, as long as it doesn't get too out of hand, but we'll try our best to accommodate that request. With regards to the masks, honest and truly, the thought of our kids being in masks all day, it's a lot, right? And so I don't have a definitive answer on that, but we will be looking at best practices and what other districts are doing to address that. As you said, they'll be touching their faces more. It's super uncomfortable. Like, what happens if a child shows up without a mask that day? Like, are we providing those masks, or do we send them home? Are they out of uniform? Like, it's just this Pandora's box and just a can of worms. And so I don't have a complete answer. I believe that like where we are with regard to the virus might dictate a lot of that, and whether or not, and again, the CDC guideline is a guideline. It's a recommendation at this point. And so I'm probably going to defer to some of the districts around us to see what they're doing, and then we'll let the parents know. But we share your same concerns. Yeah, we share those concerns as well. So I don't have a definitive answer, but if things were to progress to the point where students didn't have to wear masks, obviously that is the direction we would like to go in, although we'll probably, depending on where we are with masks in the broader community, it may be something that the adults still wear. I don't have an answer to that, but I'll let you know. Did I answer your question? Was there anything else?
Yeah, that's good. And then just maybe that you can add on the questionnaire about families that we would like to be linked with. That would be great.
Oh,
Dr. Rentie,
yeah.
Can I add a sentence there to the questionnaire?
Yeah.
We are gonna probably have an open box at the end of the questionnaire for like any additional notes. So therefore, parents that are collaborating with each other, they can feel free to let us know, like, hey, I have these 3 people in these different grades, and it would be nice if we can all like be on the same schedule. And I guess, like, to your point, we'll try to see if we can facilitate the request. But if the parents put it there in the notes, it would help guide us as we filter through all the information. And additionally, if these parents can all link together, I guess, and choose the same option as you all are deciding which option works best for you, that would make it easier for us to kind of like put you all in the same place if it's possible.
And so it kind of has to be like a utility of sorts, like it needs to serve some sort of a purpose. And so if you're carpooling or something like that, obviously that's a request we're going to try to accommodate. Awesome. Any other questions?
Hi, Dr. Rentie.
Hi, I'm going to scroll through. Yes.
For the survey that you're talking about, is it the same home tech survey that the teachers have posted to Class Dojo? Because if it is, there is no option there to talk about like if you would need, like if a hybrid distant learning would work for you, or if like both parents work and there's no one at home to take care of the kids. There's nothing on that one. So is it the same survey, or are they 2 separate surveys?
So it'll be a separate survey. So this is a survey that's going out this week, but good question.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
Yes. Hi, Dr. Rentie. My name is Jennifer Grobe. I have a couple questions. It's not going to be an option for a child to go 5 days a week, correct?
You know what? Thank you for that question. I should have mentioned that up front. So they won't be in school 5 days a week, but if you're an essential worker and you need care for every day of the week, that will be an option. So we will be working with our after school program to provide childcare, and really on an as needs basis, because obviously the space is limited for that. But we do have a plan to also accommodate anyone that has to have their child on site 5 days. But the learning piece of it will be 1 day site-based, 1 day at home, 1 day site-based, 1 day at home, sort of a rotation, unless you are 100% online. And so thank you for that question. That I actually meant to bring that up. So 5 days, you have to have it. We are going to accommodate that.
Okay, great. My second question is, it actually just kind of goes, it's not even really associated with COVID as much, but in seeing that our kids are going to be a little bit more restricted, would there be a chance that we would revert to the previous uniform that you had, where they were allowed polo shirts and things along like those lines? I know that sometimes that they get hot and itchy even in just the button-up shirts and things along those lines, and I have a boy, obviously, and that gets difficult for them. And with now additional masks and the different restrictions that we're going to be putting on them, I just wondered if that would be something that we would consider, because, you know, giving them a little bit of grace and leeway is actually, you know, would be something that we do here at home, you know, in such a crazy time. So wondering if that would be an option for you. Thanks so much. That was my last.
Thank you for that. I'll tell you what, we'll consider it for sure. I'll bring it to the table with the staff, and then we'll get back with you. Thank you for that question. I appreciate that. It's good to get your insights, see what your thoughts are, what you all are thinking. So we'll consider that for sure. And then we will have obviously FAQ. Yeah, next question.
Sorry, Dr. Rentie, I just wanted to tag on to that. This is Shara Camarena. Can you just clarify? I want to make sure I understand. If we need 5 days a week, what does that look like? Is there a plan for what that would be?
So if you—
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So if you need 5 days a week, then it will look like pretty much your child will be on campus for 5 days. And if you need after school care, and if you have a if you all can mute yourselves, we're getting like background noise. But the same thing for after school. So after school program will still be in effect for people that need care until 6, and so that's still that's still something that's in effect. Obviously, keeping in mind social distancing and the number of students. So we probably will take in fewer or hire more staff. We'll have to see what that looks like. But what that would look like for students that are 5 days a week is that on the days that they're in class, they're with their teacher. On the day that they're not, they're with a paraprofessional who will be plugging them into the distance learning piece, helping them to finish their work online. And then obviously providing a snack and lunch and things like that would still go on. And so obviously we're working out what that would look like, but we know for sure we have people in our community that are working 5 days a week and need that care. And so one day would be child care, the other day would be site-based learning. Did that help? Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anyone else?
Yes, hi, Dr. Rentie.
Hi.
Hi, I just wanted to know if there was going to be any accommodations for little people who just don't need to come for an entire day. Because with all the restrictions that are going to be placed on them, I love my little person, but I don't know if he'll be able to make it a full day with these restrictions. But I know that contact with his teacher and being out of the house and being able to socialize with friends is very important. But will there be an option to maybe go 1 day a week or a half of a day? So that way we could accommodate those children who just probably won't be able to make it through a full day with the restrictions.
So good question. Thank you for that. So the short answer would be no. although I can see your point. If you're, the fact that we have, over 600 kids, we're looking at 640, almost 650 next year. And so we're having to accommodate various schedules. And so there will be very little flexibility once we plug you into a particular schedule. And if you are in a schedule or a B schedule, like the attendance guidelines will be just as strict. And so we're expecting students to be at school from 7:45 to 2. And so then the parent gets to decide, like, if that doesn't work, like, kind of like to your point, if I feel like my child, that just won't work at all for him or her, right, then you would want probably to choose the option for distance learning 100% of the time, unfortunately. If we can do something that parents feel comfortable with and connect students socially, so that for via Zoom meetings and things like that, to keep kids connected to their friends, we will try to help to facilitate that as much as possible. This year, we were just too busy trying to, wrap our brains around doing social distancing and distance learning to the best of our ability, and we couldn't take on that social aspect. But next year, we'll come up and look at ways that students, even if they are 100% online, can still see and connect with their friends, like over Zoom or something like that, like a hangout of sorts with their classmates. But unfortunately, as you can imagine, we wouldn't be able to facilitate like more than the 3 or 4 schedules that we're already having to juggle. So we'll go from one set schedule, and this is what it looks like at Reach, to now 3 maybe, or so, maybe even 4 if a person needs childcare and after school care. And so that's going to be a lot, but I certainly appreciate your question. And I understand where the content of it and where it's coming from. But once we plug a child into a schedule, that schedule would have to be adhered to. And so let me just kind of like expand on that too. So say, for instance, you were okay with an AB schedule, something happened where you didn't need 5 days, but now you need 5 days, then you're on a wait list. Like, you can't just jump in and out of a schedule. You can't say, well, this week I'm A, next week I need to be B. You're going to be one or the other. And then if you need to move into like a 5 day a week schedule, that would be like, hey, you'd have to give us some time to fit you in and see if there's room, right, or space for you to be able to join the kids that are 5 days a week. Because again, we're still looking at physically distancing on every front, in every class, in every direction. And so space will be limited. So hopefully that answered your question. Did that answer? Are we good?
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am, it
Rentie?
answered my question. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Dr. Rentie?
Yes.
Hi, so here's my question. I have a child going into TK. And
Welcome.
I know that it's difficult since these restrictions are, it hit us out of nowhere, but as they begin to, as time progresses and restrictions begin to sort of relax, would you consider accelerating the idea of integration with children and reducing social distancing? Because I know it's going to be hard for, especially my little one, not interacting with other children and play. I really think that's essential.
Right, like it's heartbreaking. And so thank you and welcome to Reach. So absolutely, we'll be continuing to watch the trends. We will watch, governor, their recommendations from the governor, so local, state, national recommendations, obviously. And as soon as we can begin to socialize kids and give them more and more liberty at school, we will do that. And we also, if at some point during the school year, the virus is God willing, completely under control and all restrictions are lifted, then we're 100% back on to what Reach loves to do, which is teaching our kids 100% on campus with all the fun activities. So one can hope, right? So I'm hoping by spring, I hope and pray that we're back to full on what we normally do. But Mr. Garcia, I think it's Mr. Garcia. I'm looking at names, but yeah, great. So as soon as we can, obviously, we will definitely kind of like to the point where the masks and things like that, like as soon as the fewer restrictions we can give kids, the better. And so we definitely understand your concern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Good morning, Dr. Rentie.
Morning.
I have a question. If we decide to participate in the hybrid model, the 2 or 3 days per week that the kids are at home, will they be able to check out the Chromebooks like they have been? I have 3 girls at this school and we just don't have enough devices. So will they be able to check out those Chromebooks on the days that they're home?
Yes, absolutely. So right now, also second on up, they have a one-to-one. They'll be able to take those devices home. And again, we're pushing for the same for first grade. And so the idea would be that they go home with their device. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And hotspots, if someone needs a hotspot as well, like we want to make sure our students are online. And I have to say, like with our community, we were pleasantly surprised that there were only a handful of parents that did not have internet access, which is fantastic. And some students were even using their phones for Zoom, or their parents' phone for Zoom. So it's been great. Next question.
Dr. Rentie, there's a question in the chat.
Yeah. Do you want to read it for me? Do I have to read it?
Said, I've got a crying toddler at home, so I can't unmute. I have a child who homeschooled, and something that has helped prior to extracurricular activities was the school providing clubs via online. If we don't have enough staff support, maybe if there are a parent who can volunteer their time, we can always do clubs like craft, cooking, etc. online. And at church, she has gone days where they use Kahoot, for example, movie nights via Zoom, just an idea to remotely socialize.
Love it. Movie nights. As a matter of fact, that is definitely the next place our minds need to go. Like how can we bring the fun should this distance learning continue, right? If it extends itself anytime during the year, what would that look like? I know that like in Miss Lyons' class, second grade, I believe it was Friday night, they were all eating popcorn and watching a movie together. And so I know that there's some teachers that are doing some things like that, but I love, like you said, the crafting and the cooking and Kahoots and some of the fun things that we'd like to definitely make sure it's happening at least, once a month, if not more, depending on the capacity of the teachers. So yeah, thank you for that. That's awesome. Any other questions in the chat, Mr. Finley?
No, there's no more for now.
Any other questions?
I quickly wanted to give a shout out to Miss Quat. So my son is with Miss Lyons, and that Friday night hangout movie thing was just so nice for them and really enjoyable. And I was so glad that she was able to coordinate something for the students in that way. Miss Quat, who is a kindergarten teacher, has been hosting these incredible Friday Zoom calls with her class where she has them kind of pre-organize certain things. So come with these questions about these subjects, and then they get to ask each other questions, talk. It's very organized. She'll do a drawing tutorial with them, and it's a full hour of her just engaging with the students. And I think it's just been really special for the class to stay in community in that way. So just wanted to, reinforce and reiterate the fact that Reach teachers have really just done an incredible job sort of adapting, improvising, overcoming, and making this something that it's not normal. Like there's nothing normal about what's happening right now, but they've done their best to adjust and help the kids to adapt to the way things are right now, and temporarily, but we don't know how long this temporary thing is going to be either. So with that said, I was just kind of curious, as students rotate on campus and do the hybrid model potentially, for those of us who feel comfortable with that. I know that one of the parameters is 6 feet of distance within the classroom space, but I also know our classrooms are not gigantic. We're not in lecture halls. So I don't know how realistic that is, on a daily basis. And I also understand that these are just guidelines. Have you guys considered what alternatives there might be, or how you might adjust teaching? Or I know I had emailed you specifically, Dr. Rentie, sort of like this article exploring the possibility of learning outdoors or anything along those lines. Have you guys gotten that far in your process?
Yeah, shoot me that article first of all. Thank you for your question. And so one of the things we will promote and encourage is having like the learning outdoors. Obviously, if everyone's outdoors, then that kind of defeats the purpose. And so minimizing the desks in the classroom and separating students that way, having half kids in a classroom at a time will help significantly, because we currently have 2 kids at a desk. So how do we make sure there's fewer kids, right? Yeah, so we are looking at all those options. We haven't settled in on one in particular, but what we anticipate doing is, number one, our research, looking at the best way to pull this off, looking at best practices, sort of like to your point, reading articles, and then our teachers are the ones that come up with some of the most amazing ideas. And so I guess maybe to answer your question directly would be all of the above. Looking at a way to keep everyone safe, still looking for ways to keep kids engaged and to make it as normal to them as possible, right? The new normal. And so, yeah, I don't have a definitive answer, but those are the things that we'll be brainstorming about and working on, working toward, so that we have a very clear approach by August when the teachers return. We do plan on having a task force to work this out completely sometime in July. So the admin will work on it, and then we'll bring teachers and other members of our amazing REACH team, and then we'll all work out what this is going to look like, to answer your question. And also, yes, shout out to Ms. Quat. She is amazing, and she's a sleeper, because she doesn't tell us when she's doing things, but we catch her from time to time, and she just blows us away. And so we're gonna, Mr. Finley, we need to check out this Zoom party that's going on Friday with Miss Quat. She's awesome.
Check it out. I was impressed. Thank you so much. I know you guys are doing your best and you're doing a great job.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out, because we, the TK and the kinder teachers aren't necessarily on Zoom, but they're on Zoom. And so we don't necessarily watch their, plug in. We're watching other things or observing other things that they're doing, but that's great. Awesome. Any other questions?
Hi, Dr. Rentie. Good morning,
Hi.
everyone. Hi. I have a question going back to special education. For hybrid, the days they're at home, or if you do decide to do distance learning, will those services still be provided?
Absolutely.
At home?
Yes, and you're breaking up a little bit, so it's a cool question. Did you ask, is it me? Am I frozen, or is it just, no? Am I frozen? So the question was, what special ed, what the services be at home, I think was the question.
Yes.
Miss Venice, do you want to talk about sped ed? I see you over there.
Yes, okay, sure. Thank you, Dr. Rentie. So going forward, obviously special ed services are directly related to the student's IEP. And so we're currently reviewing all progress on goals. And so next year, the students' minutes will be adjusted accordingly to meet whatever the individual need is. And that may be attending class, or attending special ed services on the campus in a room with just the one ed specialist. So that we'll work with the general education population and mirror the same program. But in regards to meeting their minutes, we are currently reviewing what the minutes really should be for next year. And that way, many of them may or may not be increased, but we definitely will meet whatever individual needs are.
And that's going to be via Zoom, and on when they're on site, what would that look like?
Right, so the services would be provided on Zoom if for some reason the student wasn't able to access the campus. But if we're allowed to access the campus, then the student's services would be provided individually with their direct ed specialists, right? They would be in individual sessions, not group sessions.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rentie.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for your question. Any other questions? No?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, what does it look like for choir and band for next year? Or is not going to be any music or at all?
None. at this point is my first answer would be none, unless things open up like in the spring. Like as soon as the world opens back up and we're all safe, like we're gonna rush to reinstate all of those wonderful like extracurricular activities. For now, my first response, and it may change, but right now I'm thinking probably not, because we want, and obviously that would be an after school thing. Yeah, actually I'm not 100% sure, but my first thought is focus on just getting the learning piece going, because if you're going from a 5-day-a-week model to now part of that being online, yeah, there's going to be some learning loss. And so a lot of extra time is going to be spent on tutoring and things like that, but it won't last forever. And as soon as we can, we'll be back to those activities. Good question, though.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question, Dr. Rentie. Will grading be the same all the way across? Because there will be some kids that will have in-teacher or in-person, teaching with the teacher, and some will be at home, some will get the physical education, even though it'll be short in aspect, but they'll get that if they go a few days, and then some will might be home distance learning.
That's a really good question. And we are needing to come up with a grading rubric for what this is going to look like next year. Again, we'll be looking at best practices, so I don't have a definitive answer for you. My first thought, however, with regards to grading is it would be the same across the board. So the expectation would still be the same. So whether they're a hybrid or distance learning, I don't see like two different grading rubrics based on one or the other. That whatever grading rubric we come up with would be standard across the board. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome, thank you, good question.
Rentie, there was a question about if we are going to be adding an additional 6th grade teacher for the next school year.
Yes. In short order, yes. She's a science teacher for 6th grade. And so she will be coming on board. Yep. Anyone else?
I have a couple questions. Okay, Dr. Rentie, it's Laura.
Hi there.
So if we choose to do the distance learning, can our children have access just like we would with the teachers, like to the PE and stuff? Can they record that so they can watch that at home?
So, good question. So with regards to the PE on campus, like I said, we're still fleshing that out. What would that look like? But that's one of the things we can charge our PE staff with doing, which is like those Zoom and doing activities and doing them at home. So making sure that yes. So the answer to that is absolutely yes.
Okay, I think that would be helpful just to get them moving a little bit more.
Absolutely. So
my other question is, obviously bathroom time. I mean, obviously that's private time, but how are we ensuring that they are washing their hands properly? What are we doing in the classroom to make sure, are they having sanitizer on the desk? Are they if we're not sharing things, how are we ensuring that each individual, is cleaning properly? Let's be honest, most children don't wash their hands properly.
Right. Reminders, and obviously parents reminding students to wash hands. That will be ongoing, and obviously like throughout the day, teachers will be reinforcing and asking students to keep their hands washed, to clean their areas. This will be the year where parents will need to send as many school supplies as possible for their child, as no pencils and things like that will be shared. Fewer kids in the bathroom at one time. Like a lot of our time will be spent on just sort of facilitating distance learning like everywhere on campus. Obviously we can't go into the restroom. You're not suggesting that to like police that piece of it, but lots and lots of reminders, lots of hand sanitizer, which we already have around campus anyway. And then lots of, stop and use a sanitizer kind of a thing, or stop and wash your hands for kids that don't use sanitizers. But obviously parents will be reinforcing at home as well. And we'll do the same at school too.
Okay, and we can send them with sanitizer so they can keep it on their desk?
That is even like preferred, honestly.
Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. Thank you.
Fantastic, yes. PE for days at home, we have to remember that too.
There
Good. Any other?
Dr. Rentie.
Mhm.
So there are two questions. One question is, let's say for some reason that vaccination is mandatory across the country, where students need a vaccine in order to return to school eventually. If for some reason a parent decided to opt out of receiving that vaccine, if it's mandatory, could the children still do 100% of distance learning at home?
For this year, yes. When we resume to no longer providing distance learning, if I don't know, maybe distance learning is here to stay, not sure. But you know, we are a site-based charter, and so our charter, like our charter itself, is based on Monday through Friday site-based learning. And so when the country goes back to normal, which we can get by with that distance learning this year, but I would say at some point, if it's required by the state of California, for instance, then REACH would have to comply. And so probably by fall of next year, if that were the case and it's required, I would say that a child would have to have it. But for this year, obviously there's that gray area. We will be providing distance learning for the rest of the year, unless the state says otherwise. And so obviously you would have that option to opt out this year. Hopefully that answers the question. It's a good one though.
And also, do we or will we be providing an outside wash area, I guess, for like washing hands and stuff widely?
No, other than the restrooms themselves, and probably some kind of a system for especially the little ones, encouraging them to go in and wash their hands. But I don't see us like adding like a separate wash station necessarily, but I do see us with hand sanitizers, walking around with hand sanitizers, all of us, all the adults. Any other questions on via chat?
A question was asked about TK curriculum. Will they be on Zoom as well?
That's going to be, I'll have to get back with you. It's really difficult for the little ones to Zoom. I think some of them attempted that. Mr. Finley, you can speak to that more. Do you know if they've been on Zoom? But to your point, we do have a new curriculum, Learning Without Tears, but there are no online components to that. But TK has been using Zoom I think on a limited basis, and some Seesaw. Can you speak to that a little bit more? Do you know?
I will just say that the kinder and TK classrooms, they opt into like using Zoom like once or twice per week, depending on the need and the students' participation. It has been mostly successful in the sense that some parents do log in, but like Dr. Rentie said, it's really hard to keep a TK and a kindergarten student on camera for like over 30 minutes. So some teachers do it. I think it's something that we can think about, and teachers can test it out to see if they can do it every day. But we know it's going to be extremely hard. And I'm seeing like a parent said, yes, TK has been on Zoom every Friday and they love it. So if it's something that the parents are open to, if we are at a place where we feel that we will need to provide such, then we would have to probably try it out as we think about our options for the next school year.
Any other questions? Good questions. Thank you.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning toward 100% distance learning for KJ just because of her health issues and her respiratory issues to wear a mask all day, you know?
Yeah.
But if she is pushing my hand and really wants to try it, can we try it and then swap to 100%? Is that easier than obviously going 100% and then trying to get back into class?
Absolutely. So you just answered your question. Absolutely. So obviously, if you're leaning toward trying it, then I would do the hybrid model first, because it's
right
to say this isn't working for me. Now I want 100%, as opposed to starting off 100% and all the spots be taken.
Right. I'm home, so it's not, it's not dire, but I don't know that she's not going to force my hand and really want to try it. But I think when she gets in there and realizes what the new normal looks like right now,
yeah,
it won't be ideal and she'll want to move back to 100%. So
yeah.
Okay.
So, but that's a good question that sort of clarifies some things as well. So, if you can do 100% and that you know for sure you want to do that, then go for it. Let us know, respond to the survey. If you're kind of not sure, you want to try it out. Obviously for us, we don't want the hopping back and forth, but it would be easier to go 100% from hybrid to 100% than coming.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
And Dr. Rentie, can I add just something to that? I think it would be nice to state that in the notes column of the survey, because on the flip side of that, there might be some parents who aren't able to do the 100%, and they would definitely need that space in the school. So we want to make sure that parents who have the flexibility to do the 100% distance learning at home, sort of like give that 20 spots or 18 spots to parents who needs it. So as we look at the survey results and we try to filter through, if you indicate that in your notes, then it would give us an idea of like, if we have like 5 kids who are on the wait list to get in the classroom, and we see that you are okay with trying it out, but also you might potentially be okay with 100% distance learning, we might contact you and ask you like, hey, we have 2 kids whose parents, like, they work every day and their kid must be physically in the school. Like, are you able to be a little bit flexible with us? So the more information you give us, the better we'll be able to determine like who comes to the school and who can stay at home.
That's a really good point too, Mr. Finley. And if we can, I know Marilyn's on the call too, we'd need to like couch the question so that we're gathering that data, like a person that can do both, right? Like we need to be able to tease that out as well. So we'll just have to look.
I think if you guys write that down, it would be really helpful. Because I know when we went through an issue when KJ was in preschool, you know, they knew I was home. So I was contacted and obviously asked, could you please give up your spot? And obviously we did. So maybe if, like Mr. Finley said, if you write that down, you know, going into filling out the survey, we already know that. And we can mark a box that says we are willing to, you know, do 100% because we are home and have the flexibility.
Right. Marilyn, do you know if there's a way to capture that data? We can talk about that when we jump off, but I know you're here making notes too. So we do want to capture that data as well. Like we want to make sure our questions are clear so that we can ascertain if a parent has that flexibility.
That's going to leave the notes box blank, so like parents can be specific with any additional information that they think will be valuable for us to help us better resolve the concerns that we might have.
That's good. Is Ms. Navarro? Go on. Does someone have a question?
I was going to say I have a question.
Yeah.
So my preference would be to have my daughter on campus, but hearing the last part, I am home. So if you really just don't have enough spots and you're asking for people to stay home, no, I'm a little more, interested. So if they were doing the 100% distance, would it look like, she's going to be in 6th next year, would it look like this year where they do have a teacher lecturing every subject throughout the day? Like if I volunteered to let her stay home because I want to give that space to someone and you guys are short spots, I just want to make sure that she's not going to lose out on having the great quality education that they've done the last couple of months.
Thank you. So that's a really good question and it's going to help me clarify some things. So we have a spot for every kid. So definitely if you want her there, we will accommodate. It's just that, I guess what we're saying is right now, we're just trying to see where kids fall. So you can answer the survey if you're saying, hey, I really wanted to be here there 100% of the time, then we're going to make accommodations for that. Where I guess maybe the kind of like piggybacking on what Laura Allen was asking is that once we set the classes up, that's when it's going to be difficult to move, if that makes sense. And so we have the space, we have the teachers, we have everything in place to accommodate every child, whichever way they fall. We just need to know what that's going to look like. But once we set up that schedule for the year, that's when it's going to be difficult to switch. So if you're thinking that you want her to come, every day, then, maybe go in that direction. And it would be fine. Like they won't be taking up a spot necessarily because we're going to accommodate every child no matter what. But in the fall, once school starts and we're, doing this thing 100%, that's when it'll be hard to go one way or another. Did that help?
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so she'll plan to be on campus.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem.
Dr. Rentie, she had also asked a follow-up question about what would the distance learning look like. Can you talk a little bit more about that? If the kid decides to do 100% at home?
You said what would the distance learning look like? Oh, that's right. So we're figuring this out. So I don't have a definitive answer for you, but I can say that one of the ideas that we've kicked around, so if we could do Zoom lessons in the moment, so while the teacher is in the class teaching to the class and they're Zooming so that the kids that are at home are tuned in, then we will do that. More than likely though, we will be recording lessons and putting them up online. And that's my first thought. It's not completely fleshed out, but that those students will be able to then access the lesson itself, but it'll be through like delayed, and it'll be online. And then the questioning, so if a child has a question, the teachers will be holding like office hours, tutoring time, and still bringing those kids in that were not there that day to make sure they've gotten their questions answered, if that makes sense. Mr. Finley, I'm sure I missed a lot there. Did you want to add something to that?
I am so sorry. I was doing two.
Oh, okay, that's okay. I think that's kind of it. So we're still you know, putting the meats and potatoes and all that together on this whole thing. But initially we're thinking of, it looks like a delayed lesson to be tapped into on the days that they're not on campus.
What I can add to that, I think, to Dr. Rentie's point, an idea about the survey, once we have this survey data, we'll be able to use the data to figure out more precisely how we can accommodate everyone in every situation. Because we could potentially have live lessons. We don't know yet. We could potentially have all kids in school depending on the need and the space. So once we get that survey data, it can inform our decisions in the future dependent. Because like if 90% of the school says that they want to have their kids at home, then we are going to have the live lessons, right? Because teachers are going to be in the classroom with 2 kids, and we can figure that out in a one classroom setting. So the survey data is very important to us as we think about next steps. So if you know any family members, once the survey is sent out, if we can like talk to each other and ask them to fill out the survey as much as possible, so we can get that information to really start cranking down on the specifics of the plan.
Ms. Navarro, are you here? Ms. Navarro.
No, she isn't, Dr. Rentie.
Oh, I was going to have her expound on the promotions a little bit more. Any other questions?
There are 2 on the thread. It points out there's a question in regards to, it says, I may have missed the information, but if we have articles, suggestions, questions, or concerns, where should we email those? Do you want them to email you directly?
Yes, please.
Okay. And then also, can the survey be sent out again? Can you clarify when the survey is being sent out?
Marilyn, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Marilyn, do you want to clarify when we're looking at sending that survey out? Will we say for sure by Wednesday, or what are your thoughts?
I guess once I consolidate everybody's feedback, I know I've been adding some sections as we've been on this meeting, but we should have it sent out hopefully by the end of Wednesday.
By the end of Wednesday, Thursday at the latest, would you say? Okay, yeah. So this week, Thursday at the latest. Anything else, Venice?
Nope, I just went ahead and posted your email so that they could send questions directly to you.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Going once? Going twice. Well, I have to say, we're beyond ecstatic to have you on the call today. We appreciate you and your support of your child, all of our REACH scholars in support of our school. Thank you for hanging in there with us. It has definitely been a roller coaster ride of sorts. It's been a lot of hard work, but we're very proud of where we are in this moment. We hope to be together soon. I mean, we, in our grandest of ways, like we missed our spring performance and all the wonderful things that we do together as a school at large, but we are hoping to be there soon for sure. I just want to give Miss Venice, Miss Marilyn, the SPEDET team, and some of the other people that are on this call that are part of our REACH team, just a shout out Mr. Finley, who's new to the school as well. I see Miss Joanna on here. Just a shout out for the amazing job that they're doing. Miss Venice in special ed didn't miss a beat. When we went live Zoom on Wednesday, her team was right there with us. And, you know, I don't know if you know what a feat that is. It is not an easy task to provide sped ed services on the fly through distance learning, and they did it, and they did it well. And so it has been quite a ride for us, but you know, we're very excited about what the future holds, and we cannot wait to have everyone back on campus together again at some point, and hopefully sooner rather than later. Thank you so much for being on this call. We really appreciate all of you. This will be posted, I believe, online, Marilyn, I think. Probably Rachel will send out the link for parents that weren't able to be here today so that we can disseminate the information as much as possible. And if you take nothing else away today, please, please, please respond to the survey, tell a friend. The more of you that respond, the fewer of you that we have to track down. Like, we really want to hear everyone's voice in terms of what their preference is for next year, because we will set our watch to your time. And so we want to make sure that we accommodate every need to the best of our ability. And if we don't hear from you, we're just going to plug you in. So if you want to be counted, please make sure you respond, which all of you are on the call, I'm sure you will, but also tell a friend. Thank you so much. We appreciate all of you. And if we don't hear from you or see you, have a fantastic summer. Don't forget promotion, kinder promotion, 6th grade promotion. That information will be shared with you this week. Have a great time. Have a great one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.